Governor, thank you for joining us on Up Close again. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Bill.
I know this is it's just the way this city is right now is heartbroken, shocked, and I know you're reflecting some of that. I said on the air last night that it's okay to feel terrible because we're all feeling terrible. The big picture here, what's it like for you, having to talk to all these people who are really heartbroken?
You know, we're elected officials and we have to lead during crises like this, but we're also human beings. And we can't shake that sense of empathy for people. When I spoke over the last couple of days to the family of one of the security guards, a 46-year-old who lost his life that day, or the widow of the police officer, in broken English, she just said, "Can you pray for us?" And she's 8 months pregnant with 2 little ones. And, the husband of an incredible star executive. So I just speak to all of them as if I was in their shoes and try to say, I can't imagine what it's like to go home and not have your most beloved person in the world in bed with you tonight. So it's hard, but we have to rise up because the city needs people who have a steady hand that'll convey the confidence to get us through this. Because we're New Yorkers, we always endure and survive.
It also seemed that, the victims here were part of the wide range of the various people that make up New York City.
That's exactly right. That's a great observation. You have a police officer, a Bangladeshi refugee immigrant, whose father was so proud of him. His wife and family are just, for someone to have come here with very little, to rise up to become an NYPD officer, that's extraordinary for these families. And so there's a lot of pride there. There's a lot of pain with the loss.
You went to the 4-7 precinct for an event that was emotional, I imagine.
It was. This was the shift that Officer Islam was on. And so these mostly young men were all lined up in formation for their roll call. They do it every morning at 6:30. And he was missing. And I cannot imagine what that's like, that their friend, he was such an outgoing, friendly person that people really cared about him. So this is a family. NYPD, when you're in a precinct together, you're in the bunker. You're in stress like none of us can imagine. And they support each other. So their family has been shattered. And I just wanted to talk to them today with the mayor, Mary Adams, who I think has really risen to this occasion in an extraordinary way, channeling his own experience as a police officer and how his mother used to be so worried about him every day when he went to work, when he was out in the streets, because you never know if this is the day that you've said your final goodbye. So I think he's done a great job. Our Commissioner of Police, Jessica Tisch, not on the job that long, but she acts like she's been a veteran for years. She's really a real pro. And again, confidence is important. She conveys confidence that we're going to be okay, New York. We're going to get through this.
We are going to get through that and this. What do we do going forward to try to stop this? You don't see a guy walking around with an armed rifle like that, semi-automatic. You just don't see that in the streets.
You don't see that because we ban them in New York.
Right.
Right.
But it wasn't banned. It was right there in the middle of the street for everyone to see.
No, that's what's so shocking about it, Bill. That was so shocking. In the state of New York, we have the toughest gun laws in America. What does that mean? We have the lowest homicide by gun rate almost in the country. I think in the entire country, we're number 3 after Massachusetts and New Jersey. We're tied. We're number 1 when it comes to large states. So the laws make a difference. So where do we go from here? First of all, we look at other states. The state of Nevada. Someone with mental health problems can buy a gun. We have much stricter laws than that. But why do we even allow these weapons of mass destruction to be sold anywhere in America? Other countries have completely banned them. Why can't Congress and the president step up and say, this is it, no more. It's gone on too long. There's too much pain and bloodshed.
So why can't they step up and do it?
It takes political courage. And unfortunately, there's an incredible lack of it in this country. And I've been calling for this for many years. It was just 3 years ago, my hometown of Buffalo experienced something a similar scale, but even larger. 10 innocent Buffalonians grocery shopping on a Saturday morning in May, didn't walk out of there.
Mass murder.
They were gunned down with an assault weapon with an enhanced magazine that had high capacity so they could slaughter people. Why are these allowed anywhere in the great United States of America? I don't understand it. But Congress has to step up. The president, this could be his moment. Show you have the courage to look out for people and not the NRA.
Do you believe the odds are on the side of the president doing that?
You know what? I'm always surprised. I'm always willing to make the case and let people know how important this is. And you never know it's going to be a breakthrough moment. This is President Trump's hometown. He knows these streets. He knows these buildings. And so if there's anyone who might understand the incredible vulnerability that people have when they're going to their jobs every single day in Midtown, you know, not ever thinking something like this could happen. But it was this weapon that was brought in by another state that never should have even been in this country.
The place where this happened was not far from where Trump Tower is.
No.
Not far at all. So let's talk about that. The building on Park Avenue in Midtown had security. Do we need to crack down on security even more among the buildings?
I will say this building had all you could ask for, in my opinion. And again, there'll be security experts who decide if something more could be done. From my opinion, I've been in that building. It takes a lot to get upstairs. But here you have a first line of defense. The building took the extra step of hiring an NYPD officer off duty. Who is more trained than that? So they're there on the front to stop people from coming in. But you can't anticipate someone walking in off the street carrying a military-style assault weapon and gunning down the first person they see, the police officer. So other systems were not working because triggers to stop the elevators from leaving. You're counting on a person who's alive to be able to push the button and stop the elevator from moving. The person was killed.
Yeah.
The security guard was killed. So I think it seems to me that the people in the building were well aware of active shooter training. They demonstrated that, the way they barricaded themselves. And so this is something that businesses are not doing that. All of your employees should have this training. We used to do it in schools as well. I have everyone prepared for this, what you do. But this is unthinkable. It's hard to imagine a scenario where you actually could have prevented this.
Yeah.
If this person was intent on slaughtering innocent human beings, it's hard to stop that.
We are doing something, we as a city, the mayor's doing that too, of trying to stop guns in this city. Mm-hmm. We don't have to deal that much with rifles like this. But we do, I'm going to get these numbers, 3,000 so far this year they have eliminated. More than 22,000 since the mayor became mayor back in 2022. So things have been done, especially with gangs.
We're doing the same at the state level. When I first became governor, I redeployed our state police from just giving out tickets on the New York State Thruway to being part of the front line to interdict guns that are coming in from other states. They're not manufactured here. So every gun you see has come in from another state. The Iron Pipeline coming up I-95 or from Pennsylvania. There's a lot of gun shows. And it takes nothing to drive down 81, go to a gun show, load up the trunk, bring them up 81, and come on over to the Bronx. And that's what was happening. We broke that up. We've been working really hard with the mayor, but all across the state. I'm responsible for public safety across the state. And we've made tremendous progress, but also with our red flag laws. I want to explain what this is.
Yeah.
Every state should be doing this. What it says, if someone has mental health problems or has demonstrated the possibility that they could harm themselves or others, that the police can have the opportunity to go in and ask questions, confiscate a gun if necessary. I just got my daily report today. We've confiscated 4,300 guns from people who've not committed a crime, but experts have said could have caused a crime, could have hurt someone with that gun. So we take it out of their hands before that happens.
And yet you say, and everyone says, who's elected office here, says we have cut down on the gun killings here in the city and in the state. But it doesn't take much to get people to be scared of what's happening.
Bill, one is too many. You'll never sit there and say, oh, mission accomplished.
So what do you tell the people in New York who are saying, and we're feeling this, we said at the top of this interview, you know, you see that where people are so heartbroken about this and shocked.
They're heartbroken and they're shocked. And maybe that comes from the fact that it is not an everyday occurrence. The rarity of this makes it so shocking. The scale of this is so shocking. This does not happen, it hasn't happened to this scale in 25 years in New York City. It's hard for me to talk statistics. I can tell you that we had 0 murders all the way from January to May in the city. Our subway crimes are historic, not historic lows, but lows since the pandemic. We have NYPD patrolling the trains at night. The state of New York is paying for that to support the mayor and his efforts. So we're doing a lot. I have 1,000 National Guard I put in the subways when subway crime started going up. So we're doing all this. But when I tell people statistics are down and therefore you should feel better, it doesn't work. It's not going to work that way. It's an emotional reaction to the circumstances, and it's very human. We tell them we understand that. We're still working hard every single day with the finest law enforcement forces in the world to protect you and keep you and your family safe.
I want to move to a couple other things, but I want to give you a last word on this subject. Have you said everything you wanted to say? Do you want to say anything else to people out there who are listening and are still going to be nervous about this?
No, our city's grieving.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any worse than this. Yeah. That's shattering that sense of security. It's gone. But we've had this happen before. 9/11 is the most glaring example. But the next day people got up and they dusted themselves off. They went to work, and we start healing. But if there's an opportunity for this to bring us closer, to have more empathy, as I walk into buildings now, I'm paying close attention to the security guards out front, and I'm saying thank you for sitting there, because we know they're vulnerable to this, and they have to be frightened as well. So I think it's just an opportunity to show humanity to each other. New Yorkers have a reputation kind of being tough and jaded. But we're all human beings.
I did this morning on the way to work, and I stopped at the subway. 2 cops were out there, and I said, "Thank you, gentlemen, for being, on duty."
That goes a long way.
They were so, I think, wonderfully pleased by that.
Everyone should do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do have some questions to ask you, and I know you don't want to talk too many specific politics about the elections and everything else, but I do want to talk to you about some of the things that we're going to be affected by what's happening in Washington. 17 million people in the country are losing their medical care. The big, beautiful budget that we heard so much about by the president is going to have a huge impact on states, including New York. How many people are going to really get hurt? And what does it mean for you who've got to fund this somehow?
It's devastating. It is so unnecessary that we had 7 Republican members of Congress here in the state of New York. If even just a couple of them had stood up and said, I'm not voting for this because it hurts my constituents, it would never have happened. But here's what we're going to face. 1.5 million New Yorkers will lose their health care. We have hundreds of thousands who will lose their food benefits, the snack benefits. That's how we're keeping kids from going hungry in the state of New York.
Hold on. You're saying 10% of the people who are going to lose their health care is in New York?
Oh, yes. 1.5 million, yes. Yes.
10%?
Yes.
In one state?
And we've worked so hard to ensure that we had health care for all. We have about a 95% coverage right now for health care. But so much of that relies on Medicaid. 1/3 of all New Yorkers are on Medicaid, especially the rural poor. I mean, it's not just an urban issue. And half of all children in New York are on Medicaid. Process that. That is chilling to know that the Trump administration, as well as the members of Congress who voted for this, and again, all 7 Republicans in the state of New York voted for this, and they know it's hurting their districts. They know it's hurting the people who live on the farms and in rural communities and in our urban areas. They don't care. And that's what's so sad about this. I mean, don't you care? This is what lifts people out of poverty. Healthcare is so expensive. What are they supposed to do?
So how do you make up for that financially?
Well, it's going to be challenging. I mean, the healthcare industry overall in New York State is going to take a $13.5 billion cut as a result of this. So hospitals will not get the money they're accustomed to. People with disabilities living in group homes will not get the assistance they're accustomed to. Our nursing homes won't get the support they need. So all of this is on the chopping block. So it's not just the state of New York has to make up $3 billion next year, $3 billion, $750 million this year, but the whole system itself could collapse under this. And I'm not exaggerating. How do healthcare institutions, hospitals, many of them are on the brink of collapse right now, just hanging on? When they lose that support and Medicaid dollars from coming in, they may not make it.
So what does that mean for the average New Yorker who, let's say, has a good job and is going to be hurt tremendously by this? You get to raise taxes, right?
Here's what happens, is that someone may not be on Medicaid. They may never think about it. But if they have to now go to a hospital that's either has smaller staffs because they'd have cutbacks, or a hospital closes, then they and their families are affected as well. People need to think about this beyond just the people that they may think, it's just Medicaid recipients. It's going to affect everyone.
Do you try to get people who may have left New York and get them back?
Love to have them back.
Well, how do you do that?
I think we have to create an environment where people feel that we're supportive of businesses. Number one, businesses are our job creators. So this hostility toward businesses that was, existing a number of years ago, I support our small businesses. I want small businesses to grow and become big businesses. I want big businesses to hire more of our residents and give them the dignity of a good job every day. So we just have to change the perception of this environment, and I'm doing everything I can to make New York more affordable.
So a lot of people think, and they're going to blame this on what Mr. Trump did to cut all this. A lot of people think that with the upcoming election, that Mr. Trump is going to want to have a say over what's happening in this city. Without getting into the weeds about who's running for what, how big a problem is that going to be?
Well, not just the city, but if someone who's a mega Republican gets elected as governor, and there's one probably running
against you,
against me, think about the power that Donald Trump will have over everything in the state, including the city. That's what should give people great pause.
You're talking about Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, and the president would like her to run against you.
Sure he would. Sure he would.
She doesn't talk very nicely about you. She doesn't talk very nicely about anybody running for office in New York. There's one man who's running for office, and she calls him a commie man. He's not a communist. I think we could say that. And she's making fun of people.
No, it's pathetic. Especially in the time when we're a city that's in mourning, to be taking cheap shots and trying to infer that he had something to do with this. I mean, come on. People are smarter than that. Don't try to make this a political moment for you. People are suffering. Have some humanity.
He made the deal that he didn't want one congressman from the middle of the state to run against her and run against you if he got the election from the primary. He's playing a role in this.
It's his home state. I'm not surprised.
But he wants to also maybe do this if someone else gets elected. So how big a worry is that for you?
He'll do what he does. I have to manage whatever happens, right? I've seen him, not just these horrible cuts that are going to hurt New Yorkers at every level, but even something like interfering with congestion pricing. Now, love it or leave it, love it or hate it, this is a local matter for the state to manage with the MTA to have a funding source, but also to drive down traffic and to increase safety. And for them to be worried about our local management of traffic and make a big deal about saying, I'm shutting it down. Well, I stood up and said, no, you're not. This is our decision, President Trump. It's our decision. And so I've been fighting them almost since the beginning of his administration to keep congestion pricing alive and say, this is about local control, local autonomy, and get your hands off of New York City.
Will you have to fight him in battle in this politically?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I've done it before. I'm up for the challenge.
One more question, and it's have nothing to do with what we just talked about, but something that got our eye in the news this week. The state sort of seemed to botch a cannabis licensing program, and they allowed places to get too close to schools and places of worship. What's the status of that? What can you do to help that?
It's complicated, but the state law that was passed before I became governor said that you could have cannabis shops 500 feet from a school, 500 feet from the boundary of the school, right? Like if you have a large campus, it's 500 feet from the edge. The people who were running it at the time interpreted it differently and said it's 500 feet, it's 500 feet from the front door, right? So what it meant was a lot of licenses that have been issued are no longer legal under the law. So I stood up and I was saying, listen, I'm not going to let these people be hurt. We can get the law changed in the next session, but I'm not going to make someone who put their life savings into this business doing what they thought was right. I'm going to stand up for them and say, we'll find a path forward, don't worry, and we'll make sure we get the changes in the legislature, because I don't want anyone who's worked so hard and put their heart and soul into this business to be subjected to something that was more of a bureaucratic screw-up, but it has real-life consequences.
4,700 different things on your desk, and I appreciate you talking about that. Last word about this. I appreciate you coming here.
Thank you.
You didn't have to do that, but I think that people want to hear from the governor. You have been on the streets since it happened, and you're trying to say, hey, we can get over this. This was wrong, what happened, and we have to fight that. But we can also hug each other and say, we have to get by this.
Well said, Bill. I totally agree. And it's my job to do this. But it's also, as I said, I'm a mom, a wife, and I'm very empathetic. It's something I learned from my own mother, who understood and actually felt other people's pain. I used to have that shame trait. So their pain becomes absorbed into me. And I use that to channel the motivation to carry on a fight, to ban assault weapons in their name.
Governor Hochul, thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you, Bill.